Okay, guys, welcome back. This is going to be part two of your credit video. Um, in the notes, you are right here at the very bottom of page one. So we're going to talk about how to get credit in this video, and then we're going to talk about the 5 C's of credit. Basically, how do people determine if you're credit worthy, if they should loan you money or not. And then down at the very bottom, we're going to talk about how to improve your credit. And finally, maybe the most important thing, what to do if you end up getting into some trouble with credit. Okay, so how do you get credit? Well, basically, lenders, the banks, they try to determine if you are credit worthy. And credit worthy is they're just trying to figure out if you deserve credit or not, or how likely you are to pay back your loan. So they actually look at 5 things, and luckily they all start with C. So they're kind of easy to remember. We call them the 5 C's of credit. But they look at these 5 things to determine if you're going to be a person that will pay back their loan. And if they determine that you will, then they're going to give you loans for whatever it is that you need. So, what are the 5 C's of credit, and what does each one of them mean? Okay, the very first one is character. This would be like the person's reliability, and it's probably the most important C. Basically, they are trying to determine how reliable you are about repaying your loans, and because they have never met you before, they don't know you as a person. The only thing that they base this on is the history you have of repaying your loan. So they go back through your credit history, they look at other loans that you've had, and if you have paid those back, then they're going to determine that you will most likely pay back this one. So your character would be good. Now, what's a problem some people run into, especially high school students, is they don't have a credit history because they've never had a loan before. So whenever somebody is looking at them to give a loan, they don't know how to base your character score because they don't have a history to look at. So sometimes that's called having no credit. And having no credit is not a bad thing. Everybody has to go through it at some point. But as a high school student, you might end up having to get a loan for like a car or college just to kind of establish your character score or establish your credit. Okay, the second C is capital. Capital would be how much you are worth, your net worth. So what they do is they take the total amount of stuff that you own and they subtract all of your debts or the amount of stuff that you owe. So for like an adult, they would look at everything that you own. So do you own a house? Do you own a car? Do you have any investments? Do you have a checking account and a savings account? They look at all that stuff, and then they subtract all of your debts. So do you have a mortgage on that house? Do you still have a car payment? Do you have credit card debts? Do you have a student loan debt? And whatever that number ends up being, that is called your capital score. The higher that number, the more you are worth. And if you are worth a lot of money, then credit card companies or banks are willing to take bigger chances on you because they know that you have the money to repay. Okay, the next 3 C's, capacity. So this is how much somebody earns. Do they have a full-time job? And if they have a full-time job, how much money do they make? So this is different than the capital score because the capital is how much you own versus how much you owe. Capacity is how much money you have coming in. So what's your income? Collateral. Okay, collateral. That is going to be what you own that can be taken from you if you don't repay your debt. So a lot of times banks will use this as a way to make sure that you pay them back. They will threaten to take your house or to repossess your car or to take anything that is of value from you if you don't repay them. And then finally, conditions. Conditions is kind of a tough one to understand because we don't have really any control over conditions. But conditions is basically the general state of the economy. Is the economy good right now? If you ever watch the news, they'll sometimes talk about interest rates and they'll talk about how interest rates are fluctuating. Generally, interest rates fluctuate with how good the economy is. If the economy is really bad, interest rates will actually fluctuate down. And if the economy is really good, they'll actually fluctuate up. So this will determine if you get a loan or not. Okay, how do lenders know about your 5Cs? Well, as you are getting older and as you're starting to use credit, you'll actually start to build this thing called a credit history or a credit score. And these three companies down here at the bottom, TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax, their job is to keep track of your credit score. So what they do is they keep track of everything that you've ever done in your life that dealt with finances or dealt with credit, and they give you a score. And that score will help banks know if you are credit worthy, if they should trust you or not. So the score that they give you is a number somewhere between 300 and 850. And I have no idea how they came up with those two numbers, but that's what the method they use. 850 would be an excellent credit score. That is like perfect. That means that any bank could absolutely trust you on any loan. Guys, it's not really feasible to have an 850 credit score. You know, I don't even know if like Bill Gates has an 850 credit score. But that would be the top. 300 is a terrible credit score. This means that you've had a lot of difficulty in the past repaying your loans and that no bank should trust that person with a loan. Usually, most likely, your score is going to fall somewhere in the middle. In fact, here on the screen, it shows that 678 is actually the average in the United States for a credit score. So how do you improve your score? Well, basically being responsible with the money that you have. Having a checking and savings account is something that you can do as a high school student, and making sure that you don't bounce checks and you don't overdraft your account. Getting credit early in life is a good way to have a good credit score, because as you build up that history and you're responsible, then your credit score will continue to go up. And then always paying off the loans that you are given. So if you take a loan on a car, you pay that off. If you have credit cards, you pay it off every month. Doing these things will improve your credit score. Okay, now let's imagine that you get into too much debt. And this happens to a lot of people. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that have responsibility issues with credit, and they end up spending more money than they can afford. So the next few slides is going to talk about what you should do if you have a lot of debt. Okay, so step number one is to simply list all of the debt that you have. So you list every single loan or every single credit card or every single debt that you have, and you put these two numbers with it. You put the total amount that you owe, and you put the interest rate or the APR, okay? And there are several different methods to actually get out of debt. The one that I personally think is the best is to pay off the debt with the highest interest rate first. And the reason is because that particular debt is costing you the most amount of money. So imagine if this person had this debt. So it looks like they've got a student loan, they've got a 3 credit cards, a MasterCard, a Visa, and a Best Buy card, and they also have a car loan. So they've listed the total amount that they owe right here, and next to it they have listed all of the interest rates. So really you need to focus on the interest rates first. The Visa interest rate is 20.5%. That is a very, very high interest rate. So if you were trying to get out of debt, that's actually the one that you should focus on first. Now, I would want to make sure you understand you need to absolutely pay your minimum payments on all of these. You do not want to not pay your minimum payments and then the companies report you for not doing that and to hurt your credit score. But you always pay your minimum payments on all of your loans or on all your debts. And then with whatever amount of money you have left, you focus on the one with the highest interest rate. So in this particular example, you would focus on the Visa card. Now, you owe $750 on that, and that is not as much as these three, but because it has the highest interest rate, that's the one you should knock out first. And then once that one's gone, you would move on to the MasterCard and to the Best Buy card and so on until they are hopefully all off your plate. Guys, paying off debt is not something that'll be really fast. It can sometimes take years, especially if you're in a situation like this. You know, this person owes nearly $30,000. So it's not going to be easy for them to do that. That's going to take several years, but it's a process, and once you get out of that debt, you'll be very happy that you did. Okay, now let's imagine that it's too overwhelming for you. You feel like you are in too much debt and that you are unable to do this on your own. Step number 2 would be to contact a credit counselor. A credit counselor is somebody where their job is actually to help you get out of debt. Be careful with this. There are some credit counselors that actually want to charge you for their services. That doesn't make any sense at all, right? Why would you pay money to pay off debt? You're just going deeper in the hole. So you want to make sure that you find somebody that is a non-profit credit counselor. Using a non-profit organization is the way to go. There are a lot of non-profit options out there. So if you ever get into this point where you feel like you need help, do a little bit of research and find somebody that is non-profit. They are there to help you, not to make money off of you. That person is going to help you set up a payment plan. They might be able to negotiate with your credit card companies, lower interest rates. They're going to do a lot of things to try to get you out of debt faster. Okay. The third step, and this is the final step, and I can't emphasize this enough, this is the last resort step. Okay? You do not want to take this step if you don't have to. So let's say that the first 2 things don't work. You're in too much debt. You don't make enough money to pay off that debt. The third and final step is to declare bankruptcy. And you don't want to do that. That is not a good solution. But unfortunately, it is a solution that a lot of people have to take. So what exactly is bankruptcy? Well, first of all, it is a legal process. You're actually going to have to go to court to do this. You are basically telling the court system, or telling the judge, that you have too much debt and you have no way of paying it off. You don't make enough money and you can't pay back your lenders. The judge will determine if that is true or not. They'll look at your finances, they'll look at your income, they'll look at all your debts, and they'll determine if that is true. If they say that it is true, then basically what happens is they allow you to declare bankruptcy. When you do, that gives you a horrible credit score for at least 10 years. Because the bankruptcy stays on your credit report for 10 years. That's a long time. It's a really long time. So for probably the next 10 years after you declare bankruptcy, you're not going to be able to get a loan. It can also affect other things in your life. We'll talk about that in another video. Bankruptcy stays on your credit report for 10 years. A loan default, this is when you choose not to pay back a loan, that stays on your credit report for 7 years. Neither are good options. You don't want to do either one of them. But I think it is worth mentioning that a loan default only stays on your credit report for 7 years, where a bankruptcy stays on your credit report for 10 years. So, if the bank allows you to declare, or excuse me, if the judge allows you to declare bankruptcy, they are going to say it's either Chapter 7 or Chapter 13. Chapter 7 is all debt is erased. To be able to qualify for this, you have to be unemployed, you have to be very low income, and you basically have to have no way of paying back your debts. They also require you to go through financial counseling to do this one. Chapter 13 is similar. They erase most of your debt. However, usually the court will actually set up some sort of payment system, and that payment system will take your paycheck. They will take a certain percent of your paycheck, so you'll never even see that money. That money that you earn will go straight to paying off your debts. Okay? What can bad credit do for you? Here is a list of things that can hurt you if you end up having bad credit. The video is almost out of time, so I'm not going to go through every single one of them, but take a moment to to get these onto your notes and to think about what they would do. Okay guys, thank you for listening to the video.